Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Nice that you all are here. Jay, you're here?
I'm here. I'm Jay.
Hello, hello.
Okay, wonderful. Guess hello, everyone, to our socials. So thank you for coming in. If anyone would like to get started, you can introduce yourselves and just say how you're feeling or whether you're celebrating today, yes or no, Valentine's Day.
Hello,
Anyone's welcome to start.
Garrett. Hello, Alice.
Hey, how are you, Sean?
Happy
Hi,
Valentine's.
Sean.
Happy Valentine's Day.
How are you feeling?
I'm doing fine.
Okay, do you celebrate Valentine's Day, yes or no?
Are you Alice?
Yes, it is.
You muted. How can you talk?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
She has
Okay,
two.
okay.
She has two accounts.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm single right now, so I don't no need for me to celebrate, right?
Anyone else want to share their thoughts on Valentine's Day? And
Okay, I can go first.
yeah, go ahead,
My
Sean.
name is Sean. I live in Maryland. I'm programmer. I think tonight's topic maybe we should discuss, is there a true love? Why divorce rate in United States so high? I think more than 50%.
MJ, you're on mute, by the way.
Oh, I was just thinking out loud. I'm just listening right now.
No problem.
But it's a good one.
I have a proposed answer to that, but we'll get to that in the conversation part.
I always put the disclaimer, you guys are doing better than me on any relationship situation. If you're trying, you're doing better.
I like to think that everybody's got their own experience and they all valid, really, because there's no one way to do these things.
That's sweet. That's a good way to look.
Hi, I'm Lauren from Ohio, and I have to say this year, there's one special little guy in my heart. He's about 20 months old, and he's just delicious. So that's what Valentine means to me this year.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Babies are adorable. Go ahead, Brooke. I don't know if your name is Brooke or if it's
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Brooke. Hi. Are we introducing ourselves or?
Oh, just a little bit about like your thoughts on Valentine. Ellis, why don't you give the social?
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you all for coming in. So anyone can jump in. We're doing an introduction and how you're feeling today, or Valentine's Day, yes or no. Do you celebrate? And just a line or two about that.
Okay, so Valentine's Day, I would say typically I do celebrate it, although I just ended a relationship 2 weeks ago, so I'm not really celebrating it this year. And I'm a fan. I think if it's done tastefully and subtly, I think it's a nice, simple holiday. Thank you.
Who else would like to jump in? I don't know if Nicholas, if you're talking, but you're on mute.
Oh,
Welcome.
well, you get me.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Oh, you're back on mute.
Now we can't hear you, Nicholas.
Oh, okay.
Now we can.
Oh, I don't know. Something to say yet. I think about it.
Alrighty.
Well, the floor is open if anyone would like to introduce themselves next. Everyone's really quiet tonight. It's a fun topic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Ken. Just curious to see what's going on.
Welcome. Do you celebrate
you.
Valentine's Day?
I'm sorry?
Do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
Not today, because my wife and I are not together today.
Oh, next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
So how about you? Did you celebrate today?
Me, I would say in my own way, because I'm single right now. So
Oh, okay.
I'll go into the presentation and you'll see some other ways to see what Valentine's Day can be all about.
Good. So you're moderating?
I'm co-hosting, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Do you have an agenda, or is it sort of like a free-for-all?
I have a presentation to be able to kind of start the discussion on interesting topics, and then I'll follow how you guys usually go about these events. So yes.
Okay.
I have a quick question. I didn't see that I didn't see that this is going to be recorded. Like, don't you think that you should disclose that?
It is actually disclosed in all of the meetup groups. There's a disclosure, but it's up to MJ if she wants to record. So it's totally up to you, MJ.
Oh, I don't mind either way.
We usually record all the sessions because a lot of people ask for you know, the recording afterwards if they weren't able to make it. So that's why we record them, as popular opinion.
Because when I was reading about the event, I didn't see it is going to be recorded.
Ellis, which group did you find the event from?
I can't remember.
Okay, because every description has a disclaimer. It's just a sentence or two, and you might have passed over it, but every one of our meeting descriptions has a we are going to record disclosure, legal disclosure, but it's in friendly language, so you may have missed it.
Yeah, I saw the disclosure.
Thanks, Ken. Dominic.
Hi there. Yeah, hello from Denmark and Copenhagen. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, interesting topic. I've been on some meetups revolving around it. Specifically, if I celebrate Valentine's Day, it kind of always was present that day in terms of people around me talking about it or seeing something on online media and stuff. But I never really consciously found my way with it. It's not like I totally hate it or totally love it. I'm like, I just it's kind of there. Yeah, so I'm kind of figuring this out, I guess. But real quick, I had the same with Halloween actually years ago. I was like, oh yeah, Halloween is happening. And a couple of years ago, like 5 years ago, I started to really enjoy Halloween and celebrating it. So I don't know, maybe I will have a similar journey with Valentine's Day. I don't know. Thanks, guys.
They're both very fun holidays.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody else would like to present themselves? introduce themselves, I should say.
I'm Shedna. I don't celebrate Valentine's Day. I believe every day should be Valentine's Day. And I don't believe I'm in a relationship. I don't know. It's quite odd that I don't know I'm in a relationship, but I've been with my baby's father for like 4 to 5 years, and it's just not going like the best. I believe I broke it off with him. I don't know his.
You okay?
But anyways, so he didn't even text me or say happy Valentine's Day, even though he knows I don't celebrate. It's just a thought. But everybody else did, but him. So it's just like, ugh. But other than that, I'm great.
Good to know where you're at. I think clarity helps a lot.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to introduce themselves before we start?
Hi, it's Alice. Just to let everyone know, I see a lot of new names in the chat. I have information on MJ, her website, and her meetup, and a short essay that she wrote. Tonight is not just about Valentine's Day, it's also about love. We're going to have a thoughtful discussion. And I also included Freethinker Institute information for our online community and information about us. So you all can take a look at that. We're going to get started soon in 5 minutes. But if anyone else would like to continue introducing themselves to us and how they're feeling today, or how they feel about today's topic.
That we can hear.
It's not a troll, it's TP. I know him from somewhere else. Cody? I think it's Cody. He's not a troll.
Katie, are you were you sharing?
I was just saying the background noise.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah.
He's not a troll though.
I think Naidawi has their name up, hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Nidawi.
Welcome.
So I just came across this meeting on Meetup like a couple days ago. It looked interesting. So I've never like really celebrated it. I did have certain like expectations when I've been like in a relationship with someone. But I've been single for I don't know, I think like 8 years or so. And I was in a really long relationship before that with someone for like over 16 years. And like in the first couple years of being single, I would kind of tried like the online dating and, you know, that kind of thing. I decided to just completely not do it because it's super not appealing to me, and the experiences I had of connecting with people was just at a very low vibration and just felt really icky. And I prefer to connect with someone just like organically over time, and to, you know, engage with someone like as a human being, which it seems like doesn't seem to happen in that space at all. But usually like on Valentine's Day, I celebrate it with, I'm an animal person. So I usually like just celebrate it with my little ones and do something special, which is fun and it feels good. So.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Online is different because it's new and it's almost like the wild, wild west. I know that it works for some people, but people forget that it's almost a barrier of communication between people, and they kind of forget it. So great points that maybe we'll talk about throughout the conversation. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share their names, where they're from, if they celebrate Valentine's Day? I think we're starting in 3 minutes. I see some faces that are listening, but everybody's experience is valid. There's no judgment here. It's really, I find that the more that we share, the more we learn and understand, because relationship is about communicating and getting to know other people's perspective, because everybody's different. So don't be shy in sharing how you feel, because it's all valid, really. Go for it, Vincent.
Or I'll share a bit. Someone asked me a question about what is dating like now. So I'll cover maybe my sense briefly. So I think, yeah, we live in interesting times. There have been maybe like tremendous shifts due to technology. I think maybe like birth control, social media has tremendously affected like who we're able to reach. For example, we're having a Zoom meeting right now. So like we're able to reach people in different cities, countries. It's easy and expensive. So these days, I think there's a tremendous gap in expectations and reality. And I think maybe like men love differently from women. There's there's a huge chasm, and I'm particularly interested in kind of this red pill like MGTOW movement, men going their own way. So there's a lot of discussion about just like men and women, and I think society is going to be, as kind of birth rates plummet, and and like if we're not able to resolve our differences, there will be like serious consequences for society. So lots to discuss, I think. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing. There's definitely a lot to discuss. Penny Smith, go for it.
Hi, my name is Tanae. I'm calling from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm actually one of the facilitators for the Connections Humanist group. I actually do celebrate Valentine's Day myself. It's also my brother's birthday. He was born around that time in 1998.
Nice.
So we make sure that we give him a birthday shout out, as well as Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Beautiful.
I'm currently dating. I do consider myself to be bisexual, meaning I am romantically and sexually attracted to both cisgender male and female women, but I do often consider myself to be pansexual as well. I haven't really tapped into that yet, but as far as that is concerned, I do enjoy Valentine's Day. You know, I make sure I give my mom all the love that she needs, especially on her birthday and Mother's Day and all other special holidays. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Peter?
Hello, nice to meet everyone. I imagine probably with most of the group, sort of outside the DC area. I'm in Alexandria's side. Do I celebrate Valentine's? No, not really. I mean, I acknowledge it, but I mean, I'll be honest, it's always a holiday that I haven't exactly had the type of love life that one would consider positive or even substantial. So and mainly the other reason I usually don't celebrate is because I feel like, I mean, I imagine we probably have some people who celebrate different holidays in December, but I imagine a lot of us probably here celebrate Christmas. And I feel like Christmas covers a lot of sort of the lovey-doveyness in a much deeper and I'm not exactly sure what the word is, but I don't want to say more profound, but certainly more. I mean, it's, you know, you have like, I mean, Christmas is, you know, it's love, it's platonic love, it's romantic love, it's love for your children, it's love for the world, and sort of, and I've always found a warmer sense with that. I guess the other opinion I would say I have is, over the years, I've really started to not like the term casual sex, or I don't know, maybe no, more so casual sex, because it's now obviously there's certain caveats, because not all types of sex are present the same risks. So it's like, if people are in a same-sex relationship, or you know, you're not going to have, for instance, a risk of pregnancy or something. But you know, you'd still have the issue of disease. But over the years, I've come to realize that one, I don't think it's just opinion of mine. So feel free to disagree, but that whatever way we spin it, and you know, like the stuff like the birth control pill and contraception, and very good contraception has done wonders in certain ways, but I think it's also confused us because it's that stuff really came into effect in the 1960s, and I mean, assuming most people.
Peter.
Yeah.
All that's wonderful, but we're just doing a kind of opening up a social.
Intro? Okay.
But definitely, well, this is amazing. We just started opening up our social and talking to each other. So many topics have come up already. So we're going to get started. Garrett's going to tell us about free thinkers and introduce himself and MJ. And MJ will do a presentation, and then we're opening up to comments. But thank you for that.
Thank you.
Great. So thanks. And my name is Garrett Lang. I'm a software developer turned software inventor and now entrepreneur. My hobby is writing and discussing practical philosophy. And I'm also the executive director of the Free Thinker Institute, which is the organization that created the event tonight. Although tonight MJ is our host, and I'll introduce her in a second. But I want to say a little bit about the Free Thinker Institute. We're basically a not-for-profit looking to support and empower members. We really focus on helping members be the best version of themselves, seek truth, and to be fair through transformational personal and professional development. We have free events like this one every Tuesday evening, covering a wide range of topics not typically covered in academia or industry. And we also have weekly members-only events to apply practical wisdom into our daily lives. Ellis will post a little more information about what membership means and why someone may want to do it in the chat. And we have only one rule in the FTI and for tonight's session, and that is to remain polite so that we can all have like open, honest conversation without offending each other. And I really recommend remaining dispassionate so that we don't get too emotional and heated. Although I think the topic of love hopefully won't do that, although it sometimes can. All topics can when you think deeply about something. And so, I would also focus on listening to understand people that you disagree with rather than trying to prove them wrong. We call that listening to understand in the Free Thinker Institute, so that you can better understand the perspective of someone who came to a different conclusion than you. That said, tonight's topic is Valentine's Day and love. MJ is our host, and Marie Judith Jean-Louis, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, MJ, and you can correct me if I'm not, is an artist and conscious relationship facilitator. She hosts conversations related to slow dating and conscious relationships on her meetup group, The Art of Love. She co-hosted live slow dating events, as opposed to speed dating events, so slow dating, in the past for people to get to know each other while dating, and as a regular moderator on Clubhouse for the Raise Your Love Signal Room, and also focused on conscious relationships. So with that said, I'm going to let MJ take it away.
Thank you, Garrett. So I have a little presentation that I am going to see if I can share. Wait, let me just put that at the beginning and share this. So it's really just a little introduction based on an article that I wrote about Valentine's Day not too long ago, to kind of get your mind going a little bit and to, I guess, facilitate the conversation after. Those are all based on my observation and my experience. So they're not, what you must say, they're not the absolute truth. They're just my opinion, and obviously with my own experience, and I don't know everything. So hopefully that'll inspire you and we can go from there. So thoughtful discussion on Valentine's Day. So this all started when I had basically an existential question when it came to Valentine's Day. And for me, it was more towards almost the end of my relationship. I used to be married before, and I remember receiving flowers, not these ones, but I remember receiving flowers on Valentine's Day, beautiful flowers, but we were so disconnected, and it seemed so odd and awkward that I would receive flowers as an obligation, as opposed to something that's made out of love. It was very automatic. Everybody does that. You get flowers here, beautiful flowers, and then that's it. But it didn't feel something felt wrong. And then my existential question was like, okay, so flowers are great and I appreciate them, but the set, like the energy was not, something was missing, and it had been missing for a while. It's like we were basically more friends than husband and wife for the last year, and then receiving flowers didn't seem you know, it was a little bit weird. And I was like, well, why do we celebrate Valentine's Day? What's the point of Valentine's Day? Where does it come from? So I did a bit of research, and that inspired the blog post that Ellis put, like the link on the meetup for you guys. And what I found out is that Valentine's Day started as, I mean, that's what the historians say so far. It started as a pagan ritual back in Rome called Lupercalia. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. That had all to do with fertility and animal sacrifice and a bunch of pagan rituals. And then in the 5th century, Pope Gelasius declared, which is about the same time as mid-February, he picked February 14th as St. Valentine's Day to basically overshadow the pagan holiday, because it's kind of it was against the Christian religion. And apparently there's so many different stories when it comes to Valentine's, because there was apparently a lot of different people that had the name Valentines, and the story that stick is the one where the Valentine was the one that was marrying people, like soldiers and their partners, against the king's will or something like that. And that's where the whole like Be My Valentine is a whole story behind it. And apparently that's where Valentine's Day come from. And there used to be like a Saint Valentine's Day feast in Christianity to celebrate the martyr. And eventually, so that's how it started. And today, when I look into Valentine's Day, I learned that it's one of the most celebrated holidays of the year. It's a $14 billion industry. And from one of I think the video is linked to that apparently there's like 180 million roses that are sold that day, 36 million heart-shaped boxes of candies, dinners, and God knows what else that goes on Valentine's Day. So there's a lot of money that's being spent that day. So it's basically, and some people joke about the fact that it's more like it feels like it's more of a Hallmark type of holiday. It's a day for people to spend, and it is technically about love, but it seems like it's more about all the stuff that goes around it, like all the celebration, almost like a new tradition of doing all these type of things. And so I was looking into that, and I'm like, well, isn't it supposed to be about love? And how do people react to the whole Valentine's Day thing? Because I noticed that some of my friends and colleagues, like the opinion is so varied. Some people are very much so into it, and some people are not into it at all. Some people are even being sarcastic about the whole thing. But whether we celebrate it or not, however we feel about it, Valentine's Day is a very lucrative part of our collective consciousness. It's not like if you can get away from knowing or hearing that Valentine's Day is coming. You're going to receive ads about it. You're going to see much more flowers. You're going to see the reds in all the stores and people talking about it. And I don't know where you live, but like in the city, sometimes that's where like there's a bunch of flowers outside to be able to buy them last minute to be able to give to your partner. So it's still in our consciousness, but I was wondering, okay, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's something that's missing because it also triggers people. And why does it triggers people? Because like some people talked about it before, some people celebrate it and some people don't. And I think it triggers people because the narrative that we've been giving when it comes to Valentine's Day doesn't fit everybody and everybody's stories. So it basically fit a specific type of group of people that are in love in couple, happily in love in couple, and everybody else seems like they don't get to celebrate Valentine's Day. And I was thinking about the fact that also when you think about how we've been programmed or indoctrinated, how we learned about Valentine's Day, it started all the way since we were in elementary school and high school. And I don't know if you remember, but I know that for me, when I was in school, when it was Valentine's Day, there was always, I hope there's no sound, okay. There was always special Valentine's Day event where we would have roses in school and we would have like candies and cards, and a few people would get lucky enough to have a secret admirers that would actually come and bring roses. So a group of people that were responsible for Valentine's Day flowers and stuff like that would come to different people's classes, and only a few people would actually receive roses or candies and cards, and some people would not. And there is this weird feeling of you're not part of it, like you don't get to celebrate Valentine's Day if you don't receive anything, but it's not, it's almost like the white elephant in the room type of thing. So it could be a reason why there's a bit of triggers. No, but never mind, it's super loud. If we can, Mimi, that goes over the thing. If you can close your mic, it's a little bit, oh, thank you. So I think that might be one of the reasons why it might trigger people a little bit, because the narrative that we were given. Whoops. How's the symbol?
Sorry about that. I need to make you a co-host. I was trying to prevent other people from sharing, and I stopped you from sharing.
Oh, I see.
You're a co-host.
No worries.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, so yeah, so these experiences, we kind of carry them with us as we grow older. So, and it's possible that as we grow older, we might compensate for the fact that we didn't get the opportunity to receive a rose or to have like a Valentine's during that time. And then it might create the expectation once you finally get into a couple to expect the roses and the flowers and stuff like that. And then it might become an obligation as opposed to an act of love. So there's nothing wrong with celebrating Valentine's Day. I think it's a great thing, but I think it's important to take a step back and look into what are we really celebrating? Are we really celebrating love, or are we celebrating attachment or infatuation or status or something else? Because there could be a thing where you see some people kind of like show off a lot of their Valentine's Day gift, or they're not happy that they didn't get like flowers from the flower shop and they got flowers from the grocery store. I heard that before, which I thought was a little bit bizarre. So like, are you appreciative of the love that's being offered, or you want to show that you're actually part of the club? So something to look into. And it kind of brings the idea of understanding, what if we're celebrating love, what exactly is love? Like, what exactly does it mean? Because love is different from attachment. Sometimes you can be with somebody just because you don't want to be alone, but it doesn't mean that you love them. Sometimes you can be with somebody because you mesh together and everything works well. I don't know, financially, on paper and stuff like that, but you're not really deeply connecting type of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's important to know the difference, and important to know what do you want for yourself, and do you want to actually experience what love actually can be. So I read this book a long time ago by Stephen Hawking called Power versus Force, where I thought he had a really interesting definition of what love is. And I took a portion of what he said. He said that love is not intellectual and does not proceed from the mind. Love emanates from the heart. It has the capacity to lift others and accomplish great feats because of its purity of motive. Love focuses on the goodness of life in all its expression and argument, that which is positive. It dissolves negativity by recontextualizing it rather than attacking it. So when I saw this, I'm like, okay, so if it's about love, it should bring in positive feeling no matter what your status is, and it should be available for everybody, whether you're single or in a couple, divorced, widowed, anything. Like, it should include everything, everybody in every situation. And I find that the narrative that we have so far is really more, if you're in a romantic couple, then you get to celebrate Valentine's Day. If not, it's kind of like better luck next time type thing, or do the best that you can. So again, so if Valentine is truly about love, I think it should be a little bit more, it should be perceived as being a little bit more inclusive. And when I say inclusive, I mean people that are single, parents, kids, dogs, friends, not just romantic relationships. So it would be interesting to reframe the concept of Valentine's Day to focus on love, actual feelings of love and all the benefits from it, and not all the steps to be able to follow what Valentine's Day is all about, which means go make sure that you get something absolutely extraordinary, like flowers, chocolate, expensive dinner date, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you're just following the step, you might be missing out on the love itself, and also missing out on expressing love to people that are not necessarily your partner. Something that I've noticed recently is the recent introduction, at least I wasn't aware of it until recently, of Valentines, which is basically celebrating love between, like friendship love, but it's Valentine, it's women. I don't see a lot of guys doing that. So it's starting to bring in other people, but not enough, because not only women need love, like friendship of women, but I believe that men too. And one of the things that I'm thinking is like, how can we be more, and something that we can talk in the group later on, is this idea of thinking about love and relationship in Valentine's Day more from a heart space than a head space. And how can we be more intentional about celebrating love, and kind of look at that for yourself, whether you're single or in a couple. How can you ensure that it's really about love, as opposed to just following what society or the Hallmark store is telling you to do, so you can actually feel it and not just, check a box or think about it. And somebody said that before, it's great to have Valentine's Day, but if it's the only day that you celebrate love, you're missing out on being able to have that throughout the year. So how can you treat every day as Valentine's Day? How can you express your love with the people around you, whoever they are, family, friends, neighbors, different types of love, but how can you still be in that type of energy for yourself to feel better, and for the people around you to feel better, and to kind of create a better environment for yourself. Something else when it comes to Valentine's Day and love. So Valentine's a lot of time focuses on one of the 5 love languages, or maybe 2, which is gift and words of affirmation, but not everybody receive that as being love. Some of the people need physical touch, some people need quality time, some people need acts of services. So understanding what do you need to feel love, and what do the people around you need to feel love, so you actually show them love, as opposed to just doing what's been told, could be something interesting to talk about. And a last thing is, when it comes to love and Valentine's Day and all of that, it's important to not forget yourself. I know people talk a lot about like, you have to love yourself, and it might be a little bit weird to be like, what does it mean to love myself? It varies from one person to the other, but it's important to ensure that you allow love to come into your space, coming from yourself. So do you always have negative self-thought? Maybe you can start switching some of these thoughts for thoughts that are more loving. Maybe you can be a little bit more patient with yourself if you make a mistake, as opposed to berating yourself. Like, be a little bit more gentle. Imagine what you tell yourself, or the amount of time that you give to yourself. A lot of the time we give ourselves less time, but we give more time to other people. It's not very loving to ourselves. So if you take a step back and really look at, how am I treating myself on a regular basis? Am I being loving to myself? And the more you do that, the easier it is for you to also do that for other people. And when it comes to Valentine's Day, whether you're with somebody or you're not with somebody, I think it's important to also make sure that you also receive that love for yourself, so you're more grounded in yourself, and you're able to give that love to other people, and you don't feel like you're missing out, or you need somebody to give you something to be able to feel fulfilled. So those are the thoughts that I wanted to share, and I don't know if anybody has thoughts on this, or want to continue the discussion, or have some question, but I guess the floor is open for that.
Okay, wonderful. We're opening up open discussion. So everyone's able to raise their hands, and about maybe 3 minutes or under 3.5 minutes. Okay, you can start to pull hands, MJ.
Sure. We have Sean. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Go for it, Sean.
Hello, everyone. I have to admit, before today, right, I thought Valentine's Day only for lovers. And after your introduction, and also I did little research myself. Actually, Valentine's Day is celebrated by friends, family, even pets. Actually, I'm a little surprised, okay? I feel like I'm very ignorant. So I have a reason why I'm ignorant, okay? I grew up in China, right? I never heard of this holiday before. After I came to the United States, I only have a single focus: get my degree, get a job, you know. So I never pay attention to this holiday, to be honest, okay? I think most people like me, the old timers from China, they did not pay much attention about holiday. So I'm surprised that in United States, couples, they every week they have a date night. You know, couple go out, start a new date, even they're married for 20 years, relive the love life, you know. It's great, but I just don't know. I also think it's funny. You married 20 years, you have a date night every week. Too much. All right.
I guess everybody's got their thing, but it's an opportunity to connect and make sure that you're seen. Because some people, especially, I mean, I know from my own experience, to be able to have a connection other than all the regular stuff that you do when you're in a marriage, like take care of the house and pay for the bills and all these type of thing, it becomes so automatic that you're like, why am I here for? Like, I might as well just, you know, hire somebody or just have a friend. Like, there's no reason to be married if there's nothing extra with it. But I'm glad that it's something new, and hopefully you get to celebrate next time. Will, go for it. I thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't get organized there.
Welcome.
I don't mean to sound like Simon the Cynical, but my dear departed father used to say, you know, if you love someone, you don't just pick one day of the year to express it. And the same with birthdays and Christmas. And he taught me to sort of look a little bit at what's really going on. Not in so many words, but just I observed the way he viewed the world, and I can see if somebody's making a buck out of something, be very skeptical. And you probably already mentioned I got here late, but you know, I think like 50% of retail sales in chocolates, roses, and cards, probably not cards, that would be mainly Christmas, but chocolates and roses, Valentine's Day. And it's just, to me, it's demonstrative of how brainwashed we are. If we're told, oh, now we've got National Artichoke Day, you know, and you should love your artichoke. Oh yeah, we better do it. And it's, to me, it's just brainwashing. It's a good sociological sort of opportunity if you fancy someone, you know, today's Valentine's Day, would you like to go out? But in the main, I'm very skeptical about all these sorts of things that we're just brainwashed into following.
Yeah,
that's my Simon Cynical overview.
It's a great view, and it's kind of interesting because it kind of go in common with Garrett's free thinker, and it's like the whole idea of like think for yourself. So it's great that they give you this idea of buy chocolate or whatever, but if it doesn't make sense to you and there's something better, do that instead, as opposed to following what's given to you. So thank you. Dominic, go for it.
Yeah, hi. I don't know, maybe this is more of a statement than a comment or something. I had heard of the Galatine thing about 6 or 7 months ago from a friend of mine. She's a lesbian, and she belongs to a group of people, friends, who have decided that, oh no, we're not going to call it Valentine's Day anymore. This is what we're going to call it. And basically, you know, in discussion with her and some of her friends, you know, they feel that emotionally they are going to get more out of it, you know, with each other, you know, as women, you know, than because some of the women in the group are not all the women in the group are gay. Some are bi, some are straight. but they're going to get more out of it together as women than being with man or with lovers or anything else. And I just wonder how straight women would react to that versus, like gay women or bi women. Would they get the same type emotional connection and feeling sharing that among women than versus a man and a woman and, things like that?
That's a good question. And I would think that it's more a question of being able to open up emotionally one way or another. Some men are open to emotion and some men aren't, or because they were not taught that they were allowed to open up to emotion. So there's a whole reframing of what's been taught and what do we want for ourselves, I think. But that's an interesting thing to look into for sure. And I don't know, as a straight woman, men and women can talk about emotion, but it depends on the person. So we shall see. Thank you for sharing. Peter, go for it.
Hi. So my apologies. I don't remember the name of the participant who said they came from China and they're working on their medical degree. And then I believe the other person, I think it was Will, who sounded like he had maybe an Australian accent. All this to say, basically, so if you are not in or are new to the United States, there's a common expression that you might have heard, which is they say sex sells. And I guess it's one of those catchphrases that saddles both our sort of our economic sort of side and then also our more personal side. But it's and I'm trying to avoid having to make this sound like I'm like a Victorian era like Puritan, but I think there is, and this is something I was sort of going at when I was mentioning the thing earlier, was that I think there's a real danger to not, well, I want to say, I think it has something to do with the way I think it has to do with the way that sort of kids at like an adolescent late age learn about this sort of stuff. And so it's like when I was in high school, it was sort of a meme for kids to, you have your health class and the teachers explain the mechanics and the kids laugh because it's sort of funny and weird and awkward. And then, they say, well, use protection, which is fine. They say all that, but they basically, what I don't like, what I've realized over the years is that they leave out a lot of like the invisible stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's fine to teach, kids about, all right, well, if you're going to have safe sex and here's how the mechanics, how it works, and here's a reproductive system and that sort of thing, but it leaves out, there's a lot of elements of sexuality that are just that, they're not anatomical. And so it makes it's it's sort of like one thing we think about some of the sort of young boys who sort of acted out in very, very violent ways, in the worst cases, like mass shooters. And sometimes they were doing these to get the attention of a girl. And, do they know, for instance, like, why are these girls rejecting me so much? And, why are they so picky? And it's so like, I don't know, like in health classes, do they teach kids, oh, by the way, for most of our history, it was a very, very dangerous thing to, you had to be very picky because, the woman is the one who can get pregnant. And, that's a huge, enormous responsibility. And then child rearing, so they're not being picky just to be like, bitchy and mean and sort of selfish. And, so there's actual deep biological reasons that sort of, for which the wheels have been running for billions of years, we can't just, and so it's like stuff like that. I wonder, it sometimes seems most important to like, especially get to like people on the younger end. I mean, it's sort of like people who are coming into their teens. I mean, I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm way beyond that. But it's so then it helps kids with their the range of very strong, intense, and sometimes dangerous emotions. Sort of putting things in a proper framework or context. So
Definitely.
I don't know what people's thoughts on that are.
Those are great points because they don't, it's kind of interesting. They don't teach, there's nowhere where you get taught how to love and what love is actually is. It's more a lot of the time when you see these kids that are angry that a girl didn't accept them, they take it so personally, as opposed to it has nothing to do with you. It's just not a good match. It doesn't mean anything bad about who you are, and you shouldn't value yourself based on the reaction of somebody else. Like this whole self-esteem, self-love, be grounded in yourself, understanding your emotion, and sometimes understanding that these emotion has nothing to do with that person. It has to do with some other thing that you're projecting. So all these, for sure, all these teaching about love, unfortunately, have not, we're still learning how to share that, and not only for kids but also for adults, because we carry these things all the way through adulthood. And if we don't work, on ourselves and self-develop and understand our wounds and our trauma and all these type of things, you can carry into that as well. So yeah, those are absolutely great points. Thank you. Lauren, go for it.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Hey, I don't have anything against Valentine's. I think it's a cute, whimsical holiday, whether it's made up from the card company or chocolates or roses. That's okay by me. I think it can be celebrated by anyone. For example, I got a beautiful picture from my grandson today. But I have to say, from the standpoint of remembering some of the more awkward Valentine's days that I've had from the past, I was married for 25 years, and I got married at a very young age. And my husband and I just had such a different idea of what romantic was. And I think mine was just very immature, and he was just never sure of himself. He didn't know how to be romantic. And I'm sure I didn't help, but for some reason, I thought of the year that I told him, I would really like wildflowers. That would be so romantic. So he goes out and he picks all these wildflowers and he brings it to me and he hands it to me. And on top of it is this huge spider. I am terrified of spiders. So it's like, we laughed for many Valentines after there. He just wasn't a romantic kind of guy, but I'll tell you, when I was pregnant, he made sure I had the car that had the air conditioning in it. He made sure I had the car that ran well because he didn't want me to be out and not be safe. He cleaned off the driveway every morning. So I don't know. In some ways, I think Valentine's Day can be a little misleading, a lot misleading, but it is fun and whimsical if it's taken in the right manner.
Beautiful. I love what you say, because what came out of what you said, which is very interesting, is this idea of there's different ways to show love, right? So his way of showing love was act of service, just based on what you said, making sure that the car had air conditioning and all these type of things. That's his way of showing love. But Valentine's Day tell us just give a gift. Well, not everybody see that as love. Some people see it as like it's another Chatsky, it's just something else to give, as opposed to if I take care of you, if I make sure that you're comfortable, that's my way of showing you love. Or if I feed you, that's my way of showing love. So understanding what love is for you, again, think for yourself as opposed to what's giving out to you, in order for you to actually receive that love and to give the love that your partner, your parents, your kids see as love. Because some people, if you tell them, I love you, I love you, I love you, write them in all over, like in papers and stuff like that, they're going to be like great words, but I need you to show me that you love me. You can tell me, write me you love me all over the wall, but if you don't, if you don't put the air conditioning before when you see that I'm hot, then I don't feel that you love me. So great point. Thank you for sharing. Rachel, go for it.
MJ, that was a great presentation. Thank you for that. I was just gonna hop on and say that I was gonna respond to Will. So many great points have been made since, but he has a more cynical view, and I actually had heard once, because I had a cynical view of celebrations in general. I felt kind of uncomfortable, to many people's point, like kind of feeling forced into a tradition that doesn't resonate. And a friend once told me that celebrating prolongs life. And I've looked it up and I can post the thing here, but I learned that it has to have 3 specific elements, which is like shared food and drink. There has to be like a social aspect to it. And then you have to be celebrating a specific milestone, I believe. Nice. So I don't know if you could kind of make Valentine's Day that, but this is just me saying I'm in favor of celebration, however that looks. And with my upbringing, Valentine's Day was my parents' anniversary. And so my mom always made it feel like a special day for us. And that kind of, I grew up with a mindset that it's more about the broader idea of love. Like I would gather with my friends and we would make cookies and give them to strangers. And it just felt like it wasn't confined to romantic love for me. And I don't know, I guess I just feel like it can be a celebration of all forms of love, and in all, we can receive it and give it in a broad spectrum of ways. It doesn't just have to be the chocolate and flowers that we're referring to, because that seems maybe just a little small. Like love is everywhere, and it's not just confined to these little capitalistic ways of whatever. So that's all. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. No, I love it. And it's really cool because it seems like it's more about, like you said, the broader love, the family love, and the fact that you and your brothers and sister came out of the union of your parents. So there's like a beauty in celebrating this milestone over and over again, and actually feeling the love of the entire family. So, and I love it. It's really, you take not charge, but you take control, you take back control into how you want to celebrate it for yourself, which is again the free thinker thing, which is really amazing. So awesome. Thank you for sharing. Garrett.
Cool. So someone asked like why divorce rates are so high, and I think that I wanted to kind of comment on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I think that I would argue that it's because a lot of people actually get intimate in relationships before they know each other well enough to know if they're compatible with each other, which I see you nodding, MJ, and your slow dating is kind of along the same line. So I think we're aligned here. And I would argue, like, what happens is when you're intimate with someone, you release oxytocin, which makes you trust them. And so you start to trust someone that you may not be compatible with. And so you end up in this pattern of being intimate with them and feeling like you can trust them, even though you're not compatible with each other. And so I think that is the root cause of a lot of bad relationships, across the world, quite frankly. And by compatible, what I talk about in terms of compatibility, and I'll post my essay on the subject, which goes into all this in more detail, is like, you pick which of the following things are most important to you: intellectual, physical, spiritual / religious / philosophical, life direction, like living in the city or the country, kids or no kids, emotional, and then your values. And if you take the things that are most important to you and you say whether your partner is compatible with you and vice versa, if you have good compatibility, I'd argue that's a good long-term relationship. And the people that I know that have followed this have gotten into very successful long-term relationships that they're still in. No one has actually followed that advice and not stayed in the relationship. But not as many people follow it because people want to jump into sex. And all I can do is say, I think that's the wrong choice, and it's better to get to know someone better first.
100%. I agree 100%. And there's even more, because again, you get attached to that person chemically. There's something that goes on in the brain, especially for women, where you that's why it's hard to kind of like leave these relationships, even though it doesn't seem like it fits. You still have trouble breaking off. And for I forget who was talking about contraception. If you want to have kids, but you use contraception for the longest time, and then you stop to have kids, the chemicals in your body is going to tell you that perhaps the person that you were with, because of the fact that your hormones were suppressed, is not the right one for having kids, which kind of confuses women after a while, because when you're not on contraception, you're going to choose somebody. There's chemicals apparently that's going to make you choose a person that's compatible for you chemically. So that's another a whole other topic. That you got to look into it. And values, there's so many. That's why I promote having conversation about things that matters to you when it comes to date, because a lot of time people just go and they just talk about this is what I do, like it's kind of like showing off, but it has nothing to do with this is what I value the most, this is where I want to live, this is how I spend money. All these type of things makes a huge difference, and if it's not talked about before people get serious with one another, it could be a serious issue. And people change over time too. That's another one. That was my case. So not knowing yourself fully when you enter a relationship young, that could be an issue as well. Thank you. KC, go for it.
I'm in Toronto, as I think some of you are as well, right? And right now there's a big story, of course, about the mayor
Oh, yes.
and a 68-year-old guy and an affair with 31-year-old woman. But and they got together, but say 3 years ago. So she was what 28.
Wow.
He was 66, 65, right? But I wonder if it's possible for her, for actually either one of them to actually really love each other, because it seems to me it wasn't a fling. It was over 3 years span, and this broke up this like last month, January. Like for me, is I just think, you know, does she accept him physically, and then does he accept her mentally, or like, you know, sort of they're different age group, different mentality, different maturity, and obviously different, you know, like physically, right? So I wonder if it's possible for that actually to be true love, because you know he kept this from his wife, you know, and they carried on this kind of like secret thing for about 3 years, and I'm sure even for her, she actually could not bring him out in public, for, you know, so it was a very, very private, hidden thing, right? So I'm just curious what you guys think. Thanks.
That's a good question. It's hard to know, but if it has to be hidden, there's already an issue, first of all. And when it comes to like big age difference, I'm always concerned about and power dynamic. So he was, you know, he's the mayor, she's kind of below. So there's that thing that's kind of weird. And there's this whole thing about grooming in people's history. So I don't say it's impossible, but there's a lot to look into to make sure that there's no issues. But
Well, it's possible. It's possible that the and I it's not very nice, but it's possible that she could have used him as leverage, or as like to sort of to get to another position, you know, to a better place, another job. It's even better than the city, right?
it's one of these things that I call it,
You know, yeah.
yeah, in my personal
True love, I don't know.
There's so many different types of relationship, right? There are different types of love that I've come up with in terms of like my observation. And there's one that I call transactional relationship. So people get together because they can get something out of the other, and they either consciously or subconsciously agree that I give you this and you give me that, therefore we're a good couple. So in terms of, and that's just a theory, I'm not sure if it's right, but I see that there's people that go into relationship as a survival thing, like I need to have kids, I need to not be alone. And some other people, it's more a transactional thing. You got the right list of things that I need, I have the right list that you need, we can get together and have whatever we need afterwards. But those are just suggestions. But anyways, thank you for sharing, and we'll go to Dominic.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. Actually interesting you bring just up the term transactional relationship, because that's actually one point I wanted to raise, that well, I'm 40 now, so I'm not like old and wise or anything, but I have a bit of experiences, and I think I've almost come to the point that I would like to have this, you know, let's say call it romantic, you know, love situation. But I think I've come to the to this exact point that I think what I would most value is to have a healthy, solid, stable connection where I truly, you know, truly have true sympathy with the person, where I truly could talk to them for hours, you know, and have a shared hobby. But I'm not in love, you know, and that's fine. And and take this as a starting point, because whatever I did up until here was always that I'm only honest to the other, the idea that I'm only honest to myself and the other person if I truly this ultimate feeling activates. If it doesn't activate, something is wrong, right? So now I think that now the change is, after having been through ups and downs, and probably certainly having made mistakes myself, or also having my own complexities, I think I've arrived at the point that the transactional approach that you just mentioned, and thank you for providing that term actually, because I didn't know how to label this. It seems to be actually for me at the moment the way to go, you know. it sounds terribly functional, but it doesn't mean that there's no great sympathy or a real connection over a shared passion for, I don't know, the sciences, a hobby, playing tennis, whatever. But it's okay if that's the starting point, even though that ultimate feeling of in love has not activated. And if I can communicate to the person. So if I tell and if it's on both sides, we have great sympathy for each other. We both want to have kids. We function well together. It seems to be sane and healthy, because I've been in insane relationships and I don't want this anymore. And let's go, let's do it, and maybe we fall in love in 5 years or so, and then let that be. So thanks for that. That's personally just personal sharing here, that's where I think I've arrived now myself, even though I can't. And I will close by saying it sounds a bit sad still. It's I don't know what you guys think. Anyway,
No,
thank you. Thanks.
thank you for sharing. No, I think it's great, and it's again, this is from my own experience that I kind of came up with these things. And I find that the next thing, because we always talk about falling in love as if it kind of just, it happens and we don't have to do anything once we found that person. But in order to have that healthy relationship that you're talking about, and again, that's just my opinion, I might be wrong, but I feel that from the transactional type of relationship, you can go into the conscious relationship where you actively participate in the whole love aspect of the relationship. Because love to me is a verb. Love is you actually make an effort to be able to be present, make an effort to look at your own triggers and issue, and look at your own part in making sure that the relationship flourish. Because a relationship, if I can give analogy, is basically there's your partner, and there's a relationship, and the relationship is like a plant. In order for the plant to grow, the love to grow, you need to water it. You need to put water into. You need to feed that relationship in order for it to grow. If you let it be and you let the weeds grow and stuff like that, it might survive, it might not, but it's not going to be nourishing, because you have this plant, that's the relationship that's in the wild, as opposed to if you actually put some energy into it, and it also puts some energy into you. That's why I find that this whole idea of two become one, you need to take care of yourself, but you also need to take care of the relationship outside of yourself. And once you do that, then it becomes more conscious, and then the love can grow, as opposed to just expecting it to kind of magically do its own thing without you putting any effort into it. And nobody taught us to do that. So thank you for sharing. And this is my opinion on it. Like I said, it's not whole, but it might help. Peter.
So I decided to actually put up my video for this one. I'm not actually in San Francisco. I like to say that this is like my home view, that I have the thing right behind me, but I don't. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So I mean, I was sort of joining this meeting because I had a very, very recent breakup, and it was, and so yeah, I mean, part of why I was mentioning the thing earlier was I very much had sort of I feel like the term is sort of a pejorative, but like a Victorian relationship where we had certain types of physical intimacy, but I mean, the person I was with is very religious and very sort of conservative in lifestyle, at least, and not politically conservative. And I thought our relationship would be going swimmingly because I had gone to her family's place so many times. She had been to mine. Our families were, integrated, and it was just absolutely like every single weekend, and since for like 2 years. And so to have it fall apart, it's very, I mean, more than anything, I'm upset because I'm confused. And so it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, it's part of me thinks that it's sort of like that video you were showing at the beginning where I remember that episode of The Simpsons where Ralph pours the thing over and it's empty. It's the thing about relationships, especially in a modern society, is that there is sort of like this, everybody doesn't have to be in the best club, but they have to be in a club. And so, I mean, I guess you could be in worse clubs, but like it's, there is sort of it's very, very unpleasant in the modern world. Like if you're not in a club. So everybody who's in a relationship, essentially, whether it's a happy one or not, it's like you know, you go out somewhere, you go to a comedy show or a restaurant or wherever, and the comedian, whoever, will say, here's to all the couples out there, you know, and that sort of, and it's like, oh, thank you. Like, am I supposed to just laugh? Am I supposed to just ignore what makes me uncomfortable about this? So yeah, so I mean, that could be another reason why. I don't remember who was mentioning it, but something about it was, you get these people who, what was it? Somebody was saying it, like they need to get intimate as quickly as possible. It's like they need to put their what is it, like their stamp on the seal or something. It needs to be certified, a certified relationship with an R. Because if it's not, you know, you're just like, by modern standards, like whatever. So you get things like people saying, where you hear this a lot, like people will say, oh, I'm dating so and so, and dating who I'm dating so and so is almost always translated as, who are you blanking, you know, and it's and that's pretty insulting, because it's well, one, to assume that immediately, but it also puts immense pressure on the people in that relationship, especially if it's, I mean, I imagine more so, especially for women, because you know, they bear the higher cost, that sort of thing. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. There's pluses and minuses to sort of the old school Victorian sort of approach, but anyway, I that's all I can think for now.
No, that's great. No, those are absolutely great point. And it's hard because there's almost this societal shame that's kind of like, again, another white elephant in the room, that if you're not in a couple, then you're not part of that club. And we kind of carried that thing, and a lot of people are in relationships just to not be outside of the relationship. But there's kind of like a new narrative where it's actually better to not be in a relationship than to be in a relationship where you're not fulfilled or you're miserable, type of thing. And it's not a bad thing to be single. When you're single in that way, is you, again, take ownership of what you need to be able to have a better life, type of thing. So yeah, definitely, I totally get the society. Society is not currently, I should say, Western society is not taking care of considering all these people that are single. I know, at least in Toronto, there's a lot of single people in Toronto, and it seems like they're kind of cast aside as if like, you kind of failed, as opposed to, no, not necessarily. Like, some people just don't want to be in a relationship where they're not fulfilled and happy, and that don't want to be superficial, and they're looking for something that's more fulfilling to them, or they're working on themselves to have something, like I think Dominic was talking about, that you actually have a good connection with the person, as opposed to just being filling the blank, ticking the box, type of thing. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Will, go for it.
Thank you. Simon Cynical's back again with a chip on his shoulder, maybe. And so it's sort of on the, I guess I heard somebody speaking about something which was pretty much evolutionary biology. And I'm sort of integrating that with the arising misogyny as well, which Jordan Peterson propagates, and the likes of Andrew Tate. They've got all the incels on side, and they're cooking up a model to make money out of misogyny. And it's quite scary how many followers they've got that basically hate the female of the species, because they can't get approximated near to one. So you often hate that which you cannot get. And Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate make a living out of that, which I find is quite frightening. But the reason I think that misogyny can arise, and this is why I believe evolutionary biology needs to be taught in schools, probably along with meditation as well. Like, if we could make two main changes to the curriculum, it would be teach all kids to meditate and to just chill out, because it will change their behavior. You find the need for ADHD and antidepressant anxiety medications would fall right away. So, like, if I could make those two main changes to the school curriculum, I guess you call it that in the States as well, what they teach in the schools, the curriculum. It would be meditation full on. Like you either do meditation or go and sort the library books out, your choice sort of thing, maybe. And the other one would be evolutionary biology. And to teach, for instance, because we are a mammal. We're in the great ape family, for goodness sake, zoologically, as harsh as it sounds, but we're so different to apes because apes don't have Shakespeare and quantum physics, for instance. So we're so vastly different, and it's all contained in less than 2% DNA identity, which is absolutely fascinating. It's that little 2% DNA variation gives us Shakespeare, quantum physics, and I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. But in every species, every sexually reproducing species on the planet, the female selects, because of what the gentleman was saying before. The female's got too much invested in becoming pregnant and giving birth, and then being locked into the oxytocin, then floods through her physiology, and she's bonded with the baby ideally instantly. Other than postnatal depression can be a problem as well, but that's another topic. But anyway, if they just taught that in schools, that the males are hardwired in every species except two. There's a seahorse, and I think it's an emperor penguin. And in those two, with the seahorse, the male actually gives birth. And with the emperor penguin, the female lays the egg, she throws it over to him. This is in the Arctic. And then she takes off to sea for 3 months at sea, feeding on krill and shrimp. And he's got the egg the whole time. Then she comes back. He passes it to her with a beautiful, elaborate dance that they do, because she identifies him out of like 400,000 standing there in their black and white tuxedos. She knows exactly which one's his, takes the egg from him, and he takes off to sea. So in that species as well, the male selects the female and the females compete, but they're the only two species that I know of where the females compete for the male DNA. Otherwise, males, we are cut out to compete for our bow, and to the victor goes the spoils. And we are really historically far more polyamorous than the standard system would have us believe. We've evolved to be a little bit polyamorous and a good degree of monogamy as well. Anyway, I think a lot of problems would be solved if this was taught in schools. So each gender can see where the other one is coming from as a result of millions of years of mammalian evolution. It's what we didn't just roll up yesterday with these thoughts and desires. They've been selected for over, we shared a common ancestor with the pan-troglodyte common chimpanzee 6 million years ago, and probably 5.5 million years ago with the bonobo chimpanzee, which is actually our closest relative. And interestingly, in a bonobo troop, every female, irrespective of her hierarchical status, outranks every male. And there's way less violence, and they solve everything with orgies. And and they're our closest relative. But don't tell the church or the preachers that, because sex is evil, according to them, and God is a man watching us. But the thing is, if a male gets out of line, he's out of the party. And that's far more controlling than anything else. Anyway, that's the end of Simon the Cynical's semi-convoluted neurotic rant.
Oh, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing. But it definitely brings a light to there's a need to address certain things. And even the Andrew Tate and the George Peterson, they're bringing up an issue that hasn't been addressed. These men that have these emotions and these frustrations are not being addressed, probably since they were kids, because there's a lot of testosterone that's being suppressed. Sometimes the boys need to activate that. They need to fight. They need physical activity to release the tension or whatever. Otherwise, it can bottles up and then it becomes gosh knows what. So addressing that and addressing that from a young age to how to deal with these emotions is definitely something that would help everybody, men and women, because we actually process our emotion differently, and there's so much work to do. But yeah, thank you for sharing, because those are things that need to be addressed for better loving society. Lauren, go for it.
Hey, I just happened to think my daughter has talked a lot about a new type of parenting that's called attachment style. I'm not sure it's new, but I was just happening to think that, we're talking about all this oxytocin and things. If we really wanted to drive change and have more loving relationships and healthier relationships, really providing support to new mothers and to new families is a great way to do that. Because if you have a strong start as a child and you have a strong sense of being loved and with the ability to love yourself, I think you're going to make better choices down the line versus maybe, someone that has a weak sense of self, that they're just getting into a relationship to fill that empty hole. And so then we have a lot of disposable relationships in our society. So I wish we could take all that money from Valentine's Day and put it into like family and children's funds so that we could really have some real quality love where the child learns what love is from their family and learns to have a strong sense of self, which I think is the basis of any really good relationship.
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%. Everybody, the parents need support, because I mean, back in the days, it was a village that would raise the children, right? So it wasn't just, the pressure was not only on one parent when they're single parents or two parents. They had like the entire family and village to be able to help out, which kind of lowers the stress, and they get to receive love from the community. We don't really, at least in the Western world, we don't have that anymore. And there's so much trauma also that's still passed down, because the parents that didn't receive love, that's kind of learning how to love the child and how to show the child how to love, also need support and probably their parents as well. So there's so much work to be done. But yeah, for sure, that would great great suggestion. That would be really good. Thank you, Lauren. And next one is Dominic. Go for it.
Oh yeah, there's so many interesting points which have been addressed. So yeah, I maybe actually a little kind of thought on Will, on your ideas on evolution and how you were concluding to human behavior based on evolutionary processes. That's how I got it. I mean, I sympathize a lot with the approach to bring in the sciences and something that maybe has some credibility into into this. My only kind of concern often is when evolution is brought up to evolution is brought up to provide any kind of guidance for human behavior, what a person maybe should do or not. Is a certain reductionism, that we observe what a certain birds or I don't know, worms or so are doing in nature, and how transferable is that to the complexity of human life. And but I think that's a whole different topic in itself, but it would be a super interesting debate. Yeah, so I won't go too deep into this, but thanks for that input. On a quick note, I will just add maybe 2 points, if that's okay. I mean, one is about this whole thing, when two people meet, whichever gender, whatever works for them, and go have a one night stand, and then afterwards go, who are we actually? And obviously it really never worked for me. I just that's a bit TMI here, but one night stands, I just function well with that. I just need a bit of connection and know the person. So even if I tried, it wouldn't work for me. However, why do I say this is that I have this little theory that maybe this is actually not too bad of a strategy. It sounds maybe silly in the first place, but what could maybe happen is that you meet that person, you have a great sexual experience, and then you get to know them in person, right? But then you have this thing going on. Maybe like you get to know them better first week, two weeks, and you think, well, there's something about them I don't like, but the sex is great. What makes it you do, or what it makes it do is that you explore further. So, and then maybe you get over these first bad impressions that you have of their character. And for actually a very trivial thing, because just the sex is great, you go explore further and further, and you know, maybe actually there's something I'm not seeing. I really want sex with that person, and then you happen to know them better and better, and suddenly you got over that hurdle, right? And suddenly you find yourself maybe getting to know a person better who's actually by character totally against the grain, totally against the person that you would have gone along with if you would have done character personality first strategy. So that's and there's maybe something to say about this mechanism as well. I mean, in one case, it kind of worked out that way for me. It that first the priority was on sexual aspects, but then we discovered a certain connection over time, which really worked, you know, and then things became more personal and more like maybe more meaningful. But the first connection was just more on that level, you know. So maybe there's something to say about that way how it can play out as well. I don't know.
There's something, and that's why I don't judge any relationship how they came about, because we're such complex in the people in general, and there's no one way to be able to find true love. Sometimes it is possible. There's some people that, you know, met on Tinder for a one night stand and then they actually got married a little bit after, and some other people it's like absolutely no way. You need to have time to get to know the person, get their value, get their family. Some people just get lucky and some people don't. So as long as you get what you're looking for and you're honest with yourself, who am I to judge what's the best way to get into a proper relationship and what's a proper relationship? I know what's a proper relationship for me, but I can't judge what's a proper relationship for anybody else, as long as you're happy and nobody gets hurt. So yeah, it's very possible. Thank you for sharing. Mimi. Oh, you're still on mute.
Hey.
Awesome. Hello.
Hi. So I'm just sharing because Valentine's Day is, I said this in the notes, but I wanted to share that it's actually the anniversary of the day I got divorced.
Ah,
right?
That's interesting.
Isn't that funny? And I didn't plan it that way, but that's just kind of how it happened. So so it's, I got no theories here. I just got the kind of that it's a day that's sweet in some ways because for me it was freedom from a rather negative situation.
Nice.
And bittersweet in some ways because it's like it's freedom here. Okay, so I'll get philosophical. It's freedom, and freedom opens up a space for possibility, but then sometimes people take that space and they have a thought in their mind of what has to come to fill it. What suffices, you know, what meets the standard. Like people were talking here, like, oh, I have to be in a couple, I have to be in a relationship, you know, white picket fence, the whole deal, you know, flowers and hearts. But what I've found over time, I guess, is that instead holding that open space and just seeing all around me, all the possibility for love and positivity all around, that comes naturally and fills that space if you're open to it and if you notice it. And sometimes if people are looking for something that fits a particular paradigm, then when something comes by that's a moment of joy or love or connection or appreciation, maybe they don't see it. So on the positive side, let's say this in the positive, that for me, it's become the empty space in which I do notice those moments, however, whatever form they come in. Okay, that's the end of my little speech. Thank you for listening. Smash that like and subscribe.
That's really good. I love the reframing, because again, when you said like divorce was the date, I was like, oh, and then the fact that you said freedom. I'm like, oh, perfect. Because when
Oh,
you
yeah.
reframe it, then you can make it however you want. And then whatever happens in the future, you can reframe it again into meeting whatever works best for you, as opposed to one particular event that's negative. So that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing.
And thank you for putting this together, by the way.
Hey, thank you, Garrett and Ellis, for bringing me on, because I didn't know about the group before Ellis mentioned it to me. So yeah, awesome. Thank you.
To have you.
Dominic, you're next.
Yeah. You know, I've been listening to everybody, right? And I was thinking, it doesn't surprise me that a group of women would get together and redefine a holiday that for some women have been problematic, maybe negative, and redefine it and give it a name for themselves where they can maybe even emotionally share what it was supposed to be with their lovers or families or friends or whatever, no matter what sexuality or they are. In terms of evolution, I think evolution has to do with a lot of our environment. And if you've been in an environment where it hasn't been positive, whether it was handed down from family or experiences in the outside world or boyfriends, girlfriends, or whatever, eventually people are going to band together to try to find that emotional connection that they couldn't find in other places. So if it's a group of women and they want to get together and they want to rename it or redefine it or, make something a call of their own for emotional and maybe even romantic reasons, I don't see the problem with it. In fact, to tell you the truth, I see it as a natural progression, the way some relationships have been going and the way we define relationships between men and women nowadays. And from what I understand about my friend CJ, even within the gay community, she's found that it's a little problematic, and she's been celibate for about 2 years now, and she realizes that she needs a more intellectual and emotional connection than anything sexual. So when they all got together and she found these women that were like-minded straight across the board, they just all got together and came up with this thing. They heard this name and said, you know what, this fits, let's go with it. And in fact, I'll talk to her this weekend to find out how it all worked out. But from what I understand, they were all very excited and they were looking for, in fact, from what I understand, I talked to a couple of her friends, they were all looking forward to this Valentine's Day because they were going to do it in a new redefined way. And I'm really interested to see how it all worked out personally myself.
Beautiful. I love it. And the interesting thing is, guys can do that too. I find that guys don't obviously bond emotionally, like going and talk about their problems, but they're going to either go see sports, like go to somebody's place and see sports, like there's still a bond there, or they're going to go play golf if that's what they do, or go on the boat, right? Something. So just something to bond them. Yeah, Palantine, I thought about that word as well. So it's possible for men to do that as well, because everybody needs some sort of emotional connection. And I know it's probably a lot harder for men because they've been taught from the beginning, you don't cry, you don't show your emotion because it's not manly. And then they have to keep it all inside. And that's probably one of the reasons why there's a higher rate of suicide in men a lot of the time, because there's no space for them to talk about some serious issues. So the more we kind of take a step back and feel like, okay, it's great that society tells that's not manly, but we're human beings. Like, forget about the manly or not manly. You're a human being. You have a heart. You have emotion as well. You're allowed to have them. As long as there's a safe space for you to do it, it's going to help out. So whether it be a brother or one friend, or sometimes it's some women are more, and it's kind of interesting as I say that, not all women are also accepting of men's emotion too. So it's to find a very safe space where people are open and are like, you know what? Yes, we need to talk about this because I know that you need that as well. And I find more and more, and that's why I'm interested in the whole conscious aspect of it. The more people are becoming more conscious of it, the more there's space to be able to allow these emotions to come out, allow us to process it and feel better about it later, because you don't have to keep that inside. You don't have to be ashamed that you have emotion, that you're sad. Like I'm sure some guys are sad that they don't receive anything for Valentine's Day as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a showing of love. It's not like I remember this one woman that was like, oh yes, no, women shouldn't buy stuff for Valentine's for the guys, only guys. And I'm like, why not? It's an expression of love. Why should it be one place and not the other? Because they should receive it as well. So anyways, thank you for sharing, because it's definitely something that I think more people should be aware of. And the next one is Peter.
Hello. I think I may stay behind the veil this time, as much as I like having the Golden Gate Bridge. I was going to respond, I think, to Dominic's point. You mentioned the thing about evolution. I think usually it's not so much. So this was a point that I remember a number of years ago. I was listening to Richard Dawkins, and he had this whole point when he was explaining to a lot of people, because he was an atheist, or is an atheist. He hasn't died or anything. That he was having to explain to people that the difference between being a Darwinian scientist and being a Darwinian. And so what he was saying was, I'm paraphrasing him, but he said something to the effect of, I'm a Darwinian scientist because it's, that's objectively what I study, and I'm, seeking the truth in what I find there. But he's trying to distinguish that from what is sometimes the sort of ominous term that some people know as social Darwinism. And social Darwinism, of course, goes beyond sexual selection. So it's, social Darwinism is people saying, well, if the poor person can't afford that, then oh well, it's that sort of thing. So he's saying, basically it's not like you're taking evolution saying, I like that the weak are weeded out, that sort of thing. It's just like, well, I mean, it's like studying the waves in an ocean. You just sort of, we're going to have to deal with the waves. So, let's just see what we can do with them. The other point I was going to make, I think it was, might have been MJ who was mentioning, this actually was, Will was bringing up the thing about the Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson. I do know that Jordan Peterson, I believe he's a Toronto, yep, and used to teach there, and he would give these, he was often, I think sometimes called like the young man whisperer. And there's an interview he gives where he points out, there's I don't remember who it was, but I think it was GQ or something, where the person he was interviewing was talking about sort of how men are, it was sort of, I think she was sort of giving this sort of villainized look at men, sort of like as these sort of, strictly rapacious, violent, sort of no emotions but anger and pride and pleasurable joy, that sort of thing. And then he was sort of responding back to her with sort of this litany of, well, men have fought in most of the wars, worked the dangerous jobs, mostly in prison, sort of higher suicide rates. So, and it's interesting because Jordan Peterson, despite having, there is sort of this image of him as sort of the ultimate man's man. He's also very much has mentioned on occasion that he has traits that would typically be what he self-describes objectively as more feminine traits. Like he worked at a daycare. He's a counselor, or was a counselor. He is moved to tears very easily. He said he's higher in agreeableness and neuroticism. And so, yeah, I think in that case, we're getting to this sort of new definition of a new look at masculinity, where a lot of times it's about sort of ownership. So I'm very high in agreeableness and neuroticism, and I find I'm in a much bigger position of strength when I can just say, yeah, no, I am pretty high in emotion, and if somebody plays a certain song, I will weep at it. It's, I'm not going to try to hide that sort of thing. And so it's a more complex. I mean, we're sort of getting away from the classic John Wayne, riding to the sunset, bow, 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 muscles abound, that sort of thing. Yeah. That's all. Yep.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely a range. I think this whole idea of masculinity has been skewed by Hollywood and just kind of specific to be able to, I don't know, show or probably sell something and trying to organize men and to like put them in a box. But there's a range, and masculinity doesn't necessarily mean war all the time. Masculinity might mean structure and foundation type thing. But I mean, we think about like a dad is masculine, but a dad is also going to be soft as well. It's not going to be hard, like hitting and super like into like violence all the time. And we kind of like a lot of times society kind of like put that aside as to like, nope, that's not masculine, which doesn't make any sense. Again, it's this idea of like these ideas that they project to us as opposed to what actually makes sense in our life and society, and not trying to fit the mold the same way we're not trying to fit the mold of Valentine's Day, how it looks like. The same idea it is for masculinity, and this whole idea of like why put people in a box like that. So yeah, great point. Thank you. Ken.
Hi there. I have a couple of points to make. The first is that Valentine's Day is for women. And you made the comment earlier about the notion of giving out of love and giving out of obligation. A number of years ago, I was dating a woman, not for very long. It was only like 3-4 months. I think it was 2 days before Valentine's Day. She said to me, "You have to get me flowers for Valentine's Day." That was the last time I ever spoke to her. Because the notion that someone can demand something as an expression of love defeats the entire purpose of love. That's not love. That is, I want something from you, you better give it to me. And virtually all Valentine's marketing is the man gives to the woman. Women demand it. It is the most romantic day of the year, and all kinds of blather like that. So no, Valentine's Day is not about love. It is about women demanding from men so that they're satisfied that they are loved, whether it's true or not. Okay, so that was the first point I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make, which I don't remember who it was that brought it up, he was talking about someone dating a woman who was substantially his junior. My wife is 30 years my junior. We have been together for a fair length of time, and the way she puts it is so beautiful, because she said, "We live in our condo, but my home is your hand." We do not go out without holding hands. We don't sit at a table without holding hands. We don't go in a car without holding hands. Her home is my hand, and that is where she is most comfortable. And she has said multiple times, she has never felt so safe. She has never slept so well as when she's with me. Typically when I'm on the road, like I'm on the road today, she will sleep 3 to 5 hours. When she's with me, she will sleep 8 to 10 hours every time. And I think it's very important to note that the age difference really isn't that important. It is a level of comfort. It's a level of doing things together. Like we learned to surf together. We've done all kinds of stuff together, and that is more an expression. Also, when I'm working at my computer and I'm having a glass of wine, or I'm having a coffee, or I'm having a glass of water, whatever I'm having, that glass is never empty. That is an expression of love. And she has said to me multiple times, she is not capable of doing enough for me because I have brought so much to her. She simply doesn't have that capacity, in her own words. So the expression of love on a day, I think, is a fallacy to begin with. It's either continuous or it's not. It's also been broken down to an emotional thing, where I think it is more of a commitment thing, where people have committed to make that expression, as opposed to we want to feel this way all the time. And so I think that that's one of the real misunderstandings of love. It's a commitment to an expression to each other for the well-being of each other. One of the things she does, which is really, really crazy, is when we're out walking, because we usually walk about 50 to 80 kilometers a week together. And whenever she detects a threat, she starts walking behind me or around me, wherever the threat is against. So I'm in front of her, and it would be, and I said, that's fine, because I know that if something happens, she ain't going to take care of me. You know, it's going to be the other way around every single time. And the third point I wanted to bring up is that she is absolutely smoking hot. She is supermodel hot. And every time we go out, without exception, she is hit on. She cannot go anywhere without getting hit on, okay? And that includes, we went to the hospital and she was hit on. We went to a police station, she was hit on. Like, there is no place she can go that she is not hit on. And she absolutely refuses to engage. She will not engage. So a gentleman or a man who approaches her has to understand, it's not that she's being rude. It's not that she's being offensive. She has someone that she adores and excludes all other men. She will not have male friends. And it's important to understand that if a woman says no, whatever, or ignores a guy, it isn't necessarily because there's anything wrong with him. It is that she may be with someone else and is committed to that relationship to such a degree that she will not even engage with another man to protect what she has. And those were the points I wanted to make.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. There's so much great stuff that you said to, I guess, take away from it. And one thing that came out is this idea of safety, because of the fact that she feels safe with you. And that's where I see, for me, the masculine energy. You provide the frame for her to be able to express her femininity. And that's probably another reason why she's so attractive to other people, because she's in her fullness of her femininity, because she's safe around you. A caveat that I like to add too, like, she might not be able to protect you physically, but emotionally and spiritually, I find that that's where the strength of women are, when they're with the partner that they love and they have the safety of a man. Anyway, that's just my opinion. If we have the safety of a man physically, we feel safe that we can express ourselves express ourselves in our femininity. When it comes to spirituality and emotion, a lot of the time women are a little bit more I don't like the word advanced, but like, it's more their department. And spiritually and emotionally, that's where our strength show, if we have the safety of being able to express ourselves emotionally. And the whole expression of love, I love that. Like, if somebody can't help but want to give you love in the way that works for you guys, that's how love works. It doesn't have to be flowers and everything like that. So the one that asked you, that told you like you had to give her flowers, was obviously not for love. But it would be interesting to know why. Was it for ego, to prove something, to fit in to be in the club? Who knows? But that's definitely, there's a difference between somebody who loves you and somebody who just following what everybody else is doing, which is great. So thank you so much, Ken, for sharing. Katie.
Yeah, one of your earlier comments got me thinking about men getting needs in their relationship. And one thing that, this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, one thing that really frustrates me is sometimes where men expect too much from a friend, where internally I'm kind of saying that person needs a relationship if they want to get that level of listening. Like, they're complaining, and then you're, like, a friend listen a little bit, but they'll start to push away if it's too much and be like, well, maybe, like in my mind, I'm thinking, you like, maybe you need to get a girlfriend if you want to be listened to at this. That's my thought, at least. I'm curious what other people's thoughts are on that, whether they've ever experienced that where someone's trying to get too much support from you, where you want to say, like, in your mind, because I would have sometimes when I would have guy friends when I would complain to them, like, you need to get this from a girlfriend, like, you know, get some chit chat time with her, and they would redirect it. I'm curious whether other people have ever had those experiences.
That's a very good point. A very good point to take into account. Again, I think it's this idea of men often don't have the space to be able to express themselves, but it's also important to know who has the capacity for receiving these, you know, complaints or issues and stuff like that, because people are at a different level and everybody's got their own issues. Some people have more of a capacity to be able, like, to receive that, so like they're like almost like natural, I don't want to say therapist or natural listeners, like they enjoy that and it doesn't deplete them. For some other people it depletes them, so to be able to, and it could be a friend, doesn't have to be a girlfriend, because then it kind of deprives their ability to express their emotion. Like they also need camaraderie and friendship, men or women, do whatever works best for them. But if you have the capacity, or you know somebody that has a capacity to be able to listen as a friend and offer that compassion, because we need that platonic love. Everybody needs that platonic love, and you can't get all the time everything from a girlfriend if you have one, or a wife, because people have different capacities. So the more open we are to this idea of love or Valentine's Day, but love is not just for you and your partner, it's also for your brothers, sisters, your neighbors, your friends, at different capacity, at whatever capacity that you're able to. I think it's going to make everybody feel a little bit better and understand that love has so many facets and it looks so different from different people in different situations. It doesn't have to be just one way, and it's all good. So yeah, thank you for sharing, and maybe some other people are going to be able to chime in on that. Next one is Dominic.
Oh yeah, two Dominics in the room today. Hello to the other one. Cheers. Yeah, I mean, what comes up actually now from what was said earlier and all that is like, I personally try not to think in terms of two camps, you know, women, men. And I know it's super hard not to do that. And I certainly will fall into that trap myself, I'm sure. But for example, what I'm trying to say was that is actually what you all just brought up again is like the aspect of, let's say, platonic love. Yeah, but that means if, let's say, I would go on a date, well, I'm heterosexual, so I will date biological women, and I would try to first discover what on a platonic level, which is to say on a non-sexual, non-love romantic kind of realm level, just what connects me with that person, what does interest me there, you know. And I think that that was probably maybe 35 or maybe 5 years, 6, 7 years ago. Something switched where I go, actually had maybe a boost in confidence, in a sense where I go, no, when I go on a date or I meet a person in any context and they're of interest to me, that I genuinely ask myself, what do they have to give to me? Because the bigger part of my let's say a romantic life or anything that had to do with was, oh, what do I have to do to fit into a picture? And then it changed into, no, wait a minute, what does this person have to offer to me? And do we share, do they have a certain way of, I don't know, articulating themselves or talking about certain topics that I find enriching? And also to do this without that lens, oh, is it coming from a man or a woman? Obviously, I will date biological women, but what is the connection there that has nothing to do with the gender, in a sense? And once this is established, obviously then, but make that secondary, you know, anything else that builds on top, you know, level of how attractive do I find that person, or anything that are romantic interests and so on. I'm not saying I have it all worked out, but I guess I wanted to point out again, because I know I'm rambling a bit, but one, do away with the thinking of men are and women are, and because I have a woman in front of me, I have to activate behavior X, Y, Z. So I'm sharing just I'm not saying this is ultimately true. It's just my personal wisdom that I have grown over time. And the other thing is, yeah, to really ask, I think, what does this person can give to me? Obviously I have to give as well, and if it's not shared, it's fine. If they don't give me what I ultimately look for, then doesn't matter if that girl is super hot and attractive. I'll just I know it won't function. But that took me quite a while to work out, and I will certainly still fall into some traps. Yeah, I don't know exactly why I said all this, but I
No,
kind
it's
of
great.
feels
I
like
love,
makes
I
sense.
love it. I love it. It's, we're kind of brainstorming, and I love this idea, and I love this idea of not only what can you bring to each other, but what kind of dance can you guys dance together? Like, what can you create? Because essentially, when you get into a connection with somebody, you're kind of coming into a dance. And what does that look like? Is it going to be a long dance, or is it going to be a short dance? It's an experience. So what kind of experience? What stories are we telling? Is it like a 1 day story? Is it a 2 week story, a 5 month story, a 10 year story? Who knows? But to appreciate that for what it is, like that human interaction, however it turns out, would be a great thing. And also sometimes I find that it would be great if more people did that. If you go and date, you go on a date with somebody, and for some reason it doesn't work out, but the person is still a great person. If you have a friend where they could be a connection between them, why not introduce them as well, right? Because I find a lot of people kind of go on dates, and then, oh, that one didn't work out, that one didn't work out. But it's like, but you got to know them, and you got to know each other. It's very possible that in your circle of friends, there's another connection that's possible, and can facilitate that if there's a more spirit of, you know, coming together and not just trying to fit bugs, but coming in a more holistic, community loving way. I think that would help a lot. But yeah, great thoughts. Thank you so much. Ellis. Oh, Ellis, I see you have your hand up. Going once.
You're on mute. Oh, she might have gotten disconnected, but I'm going to channel Ellis here and say, we would love for those that have not spoken yet to raise their hands. We would love to hear from you as well. People are definitely welcome to be silent observers, but I like to say that the introverts in the room, who are the least likely to speak up in a large audience, usually have the most valuable things to say. I say that as a now extrovert, but I used to be an introvert, so I am biased in my history. But I would love to hear from some of those that are, have not spoken up yet, and have something that they'd like to share.
Definitely. That would be great. I like to call myself a social introvert. So I totally
I wonder, Garrett, just if nobody's going to speak, and any of the introverts, as you put it, why they do have more wisdom, if that's perhaps because they listen more.
Yeah, I do think that's it, Will, is that introverts like take in everything, they process it, and they usually are processing things at a deeper level, and they synthesize, and then they come up with really thoughtful insights. And so I would love to hear what some of the introverts have been thinking about, because even if you don't realize it, it's probably something that will add a lot of value to other people in the group.
Absolutely. I second that. Jean, seem like you're going for it. Yes, go for it.
You're right. I've been thinking. I don't think that I have any more wisdom than other people, but I'm in a bad situation in relationship right now, and so that's perhaps why I didn't want to share it as much. But I think Valentine's Day has been one of the culprits, because it sets such high standards for love and for total commitment and no mistakes, that after a couple of years, the relationship has been about 5 years and it's now deteriorating. But I don't like Valentine's Day. I've never liked Valentine's Day. But I think it's partly because it has this first of all, commercial feel, but maybe more important, the feeling of perfectionism that's not part of human life. And I like the way so many people have described their good love relationships as not perfect, but very good. The other thing I wanted to mention was, again, in response to, I think, the same speaker, that I was married 37 years and then got divorced. And the reason, when I thought about it for the last 10 years, I thought, why do I want to get divorced? It's because I wasn't getting affection and I didn't have enough trust, I would say.
Wow.
And so I was determined in a new relationship to get both of those things. And at first, I definitely got the trust. But in the new relationship, I didn't get the affection. And that seems to me, the gender expectation is that women will have affection and the men may not have it as much. But I do not know why my girlfriend can't express affection. I've asked her, I've told her I would love it if you would just kiss me once in a while, or hold my hand once in a while, or put your hand on my shoulder once in a while. And she sort of tries to answer, but never quite gets to an answer, and certainly hasn't changed her behavior. So anyway, things will be better in a while.
Definitely. Wow. Thank you for sharing.
But they're troubled right now. And the reason I think it might contribute to this discussion is to just add to the mix some troubled relationships as well as the really good ones.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Because a lot of the time I find that people, it looks on the outside that everything's working, but it's not true. And then kind of you add it reminds me of my marriage before, and then you add the Valentine's Day, like you got to do something, but you're like, it still doesn't, there's no love that's there. There's work that needs to be done, which is really, really important. And if I find that nobody taught us how to be in a proper relationship, we kind of like learn from our parents. If they were good, like we try to imitate. If they weren't so good, we try to do the absolute opposite, but it doesn't mean that's what works for us. So if people are open to learn about themselves and about the relationship, and to be okay with not being perfect and not trying to be perfect, maybe there's an opportunity to open up in the relationship, because it seems like you're more physical touch type of person, and your girlfriend might be something else. But to understand that there's different way to express love, and if you want, because we tend to give love the way that we want to receive it, but it doesn't mean that that's the way that the other person wants to receive it. So people are more open to that, because she might show you love in a way that you don't even understand that it's love, and you feel that you're not loved. So once you start looking into these things, there's ways to save the relationship in a sense, because there's a miscommunication when it comes to love, that because we're not taught, we kind of keep going with it and be like, oh, it's not working, as opposed to, let's kind of look into it. Let's do some research. Let's watch what the experts have to say. Like, so maybe the 5 love language might be something interesting to start looking into if you both are interested in doing that. And also, don't be afraid to go to couples therapy. I know this friend, this couple, they, as soon as they met at the desert festival like a couple years ago, I forget the name of it, Burning Man. And as soon as they got together, they actually got a couples therapist, because they realized that they love each other a lot and super attracted to each other, but they have different personalities. And they're like, you know what, let's work on what we don't understand now, as opposed to wait till something goes wrong. And actually, I think they see the therapist like once a quarter or something like that, just to reevaluate and have a third party to kind of like make sure that their communication is there and they're heard. So there's ways. Anyways, I don't want to go too much into that, but there's ways to work on a relationship to make it satisfying for both of you guys. But thank you so much for sharing, because those are very important when it comes to love and couples and stuff like that. Nothing is perfect, and they keep showing us that it's perfect. Cole, go for it.
Well, first off, I heard that I heard that couples more likely to last if they fight a little bit than if couples that don't fight at all. And maybe girls shouldn't try to find a perfect match. I was just feeling little hard to measure. No, maybe measuring a little more advanced in the future, but I also mention that algorithms on the dating sites are off. No, I mean, this is purely compatible. No, my experience, I've had I had 5 dates, has the ones I mentioned, and all but one of them was after I started using online dating sites. Maybe that being said, not to sound localist, maybe within realm of dating sites, maybe just may not necessarily find the perfect match, but going through various trying various individual fellow users on the sites, and maybe it would maybe easier with advancements in the technology of online dating sites in the future.
Yeah, online dating is really difficult, and it's so unpredictable, and it's also a bit of a trap, I find, because it's relatively new. There's so much I don't use them, but I've heard from like the group that I facilitate. There's so many issues in terms of like bots, people that are there to sell things, people that are there just to be able to boost their ego, but not really looking for a relationship. And sometimes people that are actually looking for a relationship. The fact that people kind of just go by image, and I think they said it's like 0.5 seconds that they spend on each profile. They're not like most of the people, so the attention span is out, and it's kind of like a video game. So you get the boost of like, oh yes, somebody like me. You go on a date and you go back to it because it's more of a game than actually having a relationship. So that part is really hard, and we're kind of learning to remember that people are there for a relationship as opposed to just playing on the app, because the app is essentially made for you to stay in it. And there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. There's none. There's always a relationship that's going to teach you about yourself, and is going to help you grow if you're willing to, and to have beautiful experiences, but nothing is perfect. I think anyways, if it was perfect, it would be boring and you would never grow, and none of us are perfect. So yeah, just go, like, keep that in mind, that there's nothing that's perfect, and there's always great challenges, and that's going to help you to grow and learn about love, and be proud of yourself for actually going through whatever challenges are, whether it is like having disagreement, having issues with, sometimes it's issues with like in-laws and parents, sometimes it's differences in values that you can overcome, and sometimes it's just learning something about yourself, growing from that, and going to the next relationship. So yeah, but there's nothing is perfect, no matter how beautifully they present it to us. And I think I blame things like Disney that were like, oh, so they got together and they got married and live happily ever after, but they never show you what happens in the happily ever after. They just get together, they get married, and that's it. But the real work starts after you get together. That's when, like, when you have children, can you have children, can you not have children, if parents pass away, somebody loses their job, all these teaches you how to actually love. And I'm hoping that it teaches you how to love unconditionally, because that's the ultimate goal that you probably never attain, but you get to learn to get closer and closer to that as you develop into a relationship. So yeah, there's nothing perfect, and whatever they show you on Disney, it's nice for like some inspiration, but it's definitely not the blueprint for a relationship, in my opinion. Ellis, you're back.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you so much. Everything's going nicely. And I just wanted to let everyone know that if you haven't spoken yet, now would be a good time to put up your hand. It's almost 9. And I put in all of our links for Freethinker Institute. If you all are interested in finding out more about Garrett's 5 intentions and a membership, I put that there. There's a short survey, also linked to our Discord community, and links for MJ. She has a wonderful meetup as well as her own website. I added that there. So if you all need anything, you're welcome to message me or Garrett. And upcoming events, I should say, is next week we're having presidential leadership qualities. in it's President's Day, so we thought we'd do something related. On the 28th, Garrett's going to be challenging the case for reincarnation. And on the 7th, my friend Garrett Jackson is going to be doing a shamanic journey experience for us. So I hope you all attend and stay tuned. And I usually don't say a comment, but I guess I'll slip it in. Since Ken was talking about how greatly in love he is, I was wondering about soulmates and twin flames and past lives. And also, for women, it's difficult because the standard of beauty now, beauty and age, I think men and women are different. And I think that can have an effect on finding partners as well, on both sides, but particularly for women. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, soulmates, such an interesting topic when it comes to like soulmates and twin flame. I believe like there's, and I don't know, those are just like theories. There's nothing to prove these type of things, but there's soulmate comes in different forms, in forms of like a really good friend. It could be in form of a partner. It could be in form of a parent. It's like sometimes you have like an extra connection, something special that bonds you that you can't explain, that you figure that it's a soulmate. And sometimes soulmates are there just for a short period of time to help you grow, and then you move on to the next thing. So it's kind of hard to quantify, but there's definitely something beautiful, something sometimes about having a connection, a special connection with someone, no matter what it looks like, that makes your relationship absolutely special. When it comes to appearances, again, I think like commercials and media kind of skew our view of what beauty looks like. And especially like when it comes to women, it's kind of like they stop showing beauty after a certain age, at least in movies, most movies and commercial and media. But when you look outside, there's so many women of older age that are absolutely beautiful, and they're still in their feminine, and they allow themselves to be beautiful and feminine, because sometimes, like, because of the fact, like, there's some women that have the mentality is like, oh, I'm past a certain age, I shouldn't dress like this, I shouldn't be more feminine or more sexy or more things like this. And it's like, but who? It's the same thing as the whole Valentine's thing. Like, Valentine's doesn't have to mean chocolate and flowers all the time, and being beautiful doesn't have to stop at 25. It can continue until you. I've seen somewhere this woman that I follow, she's actually a 70-some-year-old model. She has gray hair, and she's got like her wrinkles, but she looks absolutely beautiful. So it's more a question of like self-confidence and knowing that the love that you're looking for is not just for your look, although your look probably emanates from the inside out, but it's not just for your look, it's for the love that you have to offer. And that's going to bring in the beauty that, that can't be just, because otherwise, like plastic surgery and stuff like that, and we see a lot of these people that have a lot of that, there's only so much plastic surgery that you can do. You're not going to get any more beautiful if you're not beautiful from the inside out. So I would say don't let society and people trying to sell you plastic surgery and Botox and all these type of things take away from your inner beauty. And it's not just that allows you to have love. Because think about, is it Johnny Depp recently that had this whole issue with his beautiful wife that he had forever, but he was absolutely miserable. So she might have looked really good and everybody wants to be with her, but the relationship was miserable. So beauty is definitely not what's going to bring you love. And that's not, it counts, but it's definitely not the most important thing, I think, but that's just my opinion. Garrett.
Yeah, so one slight clarification. I'm going to basically make a logical case for reincarnation is what the upcoming event is going to be. The other thing I want to build on MJ's point about different people having different ways of expressing love, and I would argue that we should follow the platinum rule, which is to find out what others want and treat them the way they want to be treated, because that's really how you can express love in a way that will be meaningful to the other person, is knowing how do they want to be loved. And if they do the same for you, then it becomes mutually beneficial in that you're both treating each other the way that you each want to be treated. And I think that creates a lot of happiness. As far as soulmates and twin flames, I would argue that, there's not just one perfect person. It's, there's over 7 billion people in the world. If we all had to find that one needle in a haystack, we'd be in a lot of trouble, right? So I'd argue there are people that we're compatible with, which, will feel like a soulmate if you're really truly compatible across those categories I mentioned earlier. And so I don't really see a distinction between, I think twin flames is supposed to be the one person. I think people tend to get over enthusiastic that this is the one person, and that creates a psychological phenomena where they get fully invested in that person, even when it may be irrational to do so, and maybe that person's not even compatible with them, but they believe that this is the one and they don't want to miss it. And the FOMA is real, and the fear of missing out on being with the one person makes them stay with someone that may not even be good for them in the first place. And so I would argue that mutual compatibility is far more important than finding the one. And then the last thing is, I would argue inner beauty is far more important than outer beauty, because it's inner beauty that we have to live with. And the truth is, I've met people in my life that aesthetically were not very attractive, but I found them extremely physically attractive, even though the average person looking at them would say they were unattractive, but their inner beauty was so beautiful that I just was naturally found them to be beautiful aesthetically too. And so, outer beauty can't mask an ugly inner, an inner ugliness, whereas inner beauty can mask an outer ugliness, and make someone that may be aesthetically less attractive more attractive. So I would argue, and the other thing is, all that's in our control is our inner beauty. So why don't we focus? And that's why, the 5 intentions are things that I think we should all be intending to do all the time. And the first one is to be the best version of yourself, to seek truth, and to be fair. And if you're being the best version of yourself, you'll have that inner beauty. And then the 5th intention is an eagerness to give and receive love, because don't we all want to be loved? So shouldn't we look for ways to love others and thus be loved ourselves by being in a community of people who appreciate love and express it? So those are kind of, and we should probably wind down because it's almost 9 o'clock. So I don't know if MJ, you want to say a few final words, and then I can close out.
Sure, thank you. That was beautifully said. Well, thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts and insight when it comes to love and relationship. I love to talk about this topic in general. I love the conversation. I love the insights from everybody. I find that whenever a group of people come together and share their experience, we're all enriched more into, like, it enriches our life a lot more, and we learn a lot more. So I certainly learned a lot from everybody sharing, and thank you for those who shared, and thank you for those who thought about sharing and didn't share because they weren't ready for it. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your giving the space, because it's also important for people to listen and process as well, because otherwise there's no point to this whole thing. So just thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that's about it.
And thank you, MJ, for hosting, and thanks everyone for your thoughtful, open-minded comments, and everyone remained polite, and thank you all for that. And it was great chatting with all of you. Hope to see you guys in the online community between our Tuesday events and at future Tuesday events, where we have a wide variety of subjects. People were talking about, you don't learn about love in anywhere else in life. Well, the Freethinker Institute is a place where we do intend to teach about love, and there's no definitive authority. So MJ is authoritative, I'm authoritative, you're all authoritative. So we're all authorities, and that's part of what being a free thinker is about, is that everybody can share their opinions and we can all choose which ones to believe, the ones that resonate most for us. Although I'd argue it's good to keep in mind being the best version of ourselves, seeking truth, and being fair in deciding what to agree with and what not to. So with that said, thank you all. Thank you again, MJ, especially for hosting tonight. Hope you all have a great rest of your night, and take care. Hope to see you again soon.
Good night. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.